Behind every legend lies a reason. This is Myth and Motive.
The air in the room tasted of ozone and rust, like a storm had passed through and left only its metallic breath behind. A sticky, cold dampness seeped through her clothes from the floorboards, a chill that seemed to leach the warmth from her very bones. Then came the sound, not a footstep, but a slow, deliberate dragging, like something heavy and wet was being pulled across the hallway carpet. Every hair on her body stood rigid, a primal alertness screaming that she was no longer alone, that something was in the house with her. It stopped just outside her bedroom door, and the air grew so thick with the smell of wet earth and decay she could barely draw a breath. Paralyzed, she listened to the faintest whisper of paper-thin nails scratching, not at the wood, but at the paint on the other side. That's when the whispering started. A dozen overlapping voices, too low to understand, speaking a language that felt wrong in her ears. And I need to tell you what I saw when that door finally began to open. Her own mind turned against her, hijacking her words into perfect, unbroken rhyme. A metallic taste of ozone filled her mouth as the compulsion tightened its grip. Her thoughts scrambled, but her voice delivered flawless, rhythmic verses against her will. This was a disorder no medical text could name. A haunting, where poetry became the prison. 5 years ago, Sarah Miller was a high school English teacher in Austin, Texas. A woman who found sanctuary in the chaos and freedom of words. The air in her classroom carried the scent of old paper and chalk dust, a world she understood completely. But that world, that sanctuary of ink and certainty, was about to be shattered. For 1,872 days, she has been searching for the reason why. Sarah taught her students that language was a vibrant playground. Then one Tuesday morning, after a dull headache, she opened her mouth to ask her husband for the orange juice. What emerged instead was a chillingly poetic phrase. Her voice, once so familiar, spoke a strange and haunting sentence to the bewildered John. "Please pass the juice before the clock ticks by." John stared back, a faint, bemused smile touching his lips. "Honey, that's cute," he said, his voice a gentle tease. "You doing a bit for your class?" It wasn't a bit. Sarah's mind screamed to correct him, to force out the words, "No, I'm serious," but the neural pathways had already been laid. Her protest died, trapped behind a wall of silent, frantic static. "Sarah, this is no jest. My chest tightens, my tongue tangles, my thoughts fray against an unseen wall." Narrator. Panic seized her instantly, absolute and cold. Every conscious effort to form a normal sentence shattered against an internal barrier. Her own voice had become a prison, the words clotting in her throat like damp wool. Her thoughts flowed clearly, a perfect internal logic. But to speak them aloud, each word had to pass through a brutal, poetic filter. Every sentence was strained through this merciless sieve. What emerged was not her voice, but its refined, terrifying echo. Every desperate question was scanned, every anguished cry for help processed. The air carried the metallic scent of ozone as the system worked, each syllable measured against an unknown pattern. A low mechanical hum vibrated through the floor as it analyzed, forcing every word into rigid, perfect rhyme. The cold, sticky residue of previous failures clung to the console as the process continued, remorseless and precise. Doctors were baffled. Scans revealed a minute, almost negligible lesion near the language centers of her brain, a mere hiccup in the wiring between intention and articulation. They named it Involuntary Poetic Diction. No cure existed. At first, the world was charmed. Strangers whispered requests, their voices a damp murmur in the air, while her husband John clung to the hope it was just a phase. But beneath the surface fascination, a sticky, metallic scent of dread began to seep into their lives. At the checkout, Sarah's breath caught as the cashier chirped, "You're that rhyming lady. Say something about my name tag. It's Brenda." Her gaze flickered with a sudden, sharp dread, as if the name carried a hidden weight. A forced smile touched her lips, thin and brittle, masking the unease coiling in her chest. "Your name is Brenda. That is nice to know," she replied, the words flat and hollow, hanging in the air like a whispered warning. "But now, I truly believe it's time to leave." Yet the prison walls seemed to constrict, suffocating any escape. How do you reason with the one you love when every word feels like a trap? "John. Sarah, please, just talk to me." Sarah's voice was a strangled rasp, each word clawing its way out. "You think this is a choice? To fight this curse with every line I force into the air?" Her words tasted of rust and ash, a bitter, metallic tang that clung to the damp, still air. It's like screaming through a mask of stone. Is that your definition of normal? How do you soothe a child's nightmare? Sarah's young daughter Lily trembled against her, whispering through ragged breaths. "The monsters in your dreams are not so tall. See? Mommy's here, and she won't let them fall. Their claws may be sharp, but our love is much stronger." The poetry became a cage of constant, exhausting labor. A simple, "I'm tired," required a mental search for a rhyme with tired, wired, hired. "You will be safe, my dear, a little longer." Her mind was sharp and focused, but her body was a leaden weight, refusing to cooperate. Simple conversations became a monumental task, each word a struggle against an invisible, suffocating force. Her job slipped away, and friends retreated, unnerved by the relentless, metronomic decline they witnessed. An ozone scent hung in the air, and every surface felt unnaturally cold to the touch, as if the warmth was being steadily drained from her world. The woman who lived for language was being suffocated by its most ornate expression. The darkest part? The decay wasn't in the words she couldn't find, but in the hollow echo of the ones she once loved. The air in her study grew thick and stale, smelling of dust and old paper. Every attempt to write felt like pushing against a silent, invisible wall. Her inner thoughts were a private sanctuary, unburdened. She could feel, I am so lonely. But to speak it aloud, it had to transform into, the silence here is an abyss, a cavern where only I exist. Her raw emotion was always veiled, cloaked in a disguise. After 872 days, the poem's reality fractured John's mind. He could no longer inhabit its verses. The air grew heavy with the metallic scent of his own fear. In a broken whisper, he confessed to the empty room, I can't talk to my own wife. The air grew thick with the scent of ozone as the man's frustration turned to cold contempt. I hear a sonnet when I need a partner, he said, each word sharp and deliberate. I need a yes or no, not a couplet, Sarah. Sarah trembled, her breath coming in short, ragged gasps. She tried to form words, but her mind raced against a cruel compulsion, searching for rhymes for, stay, please, don't go, please, just, she stammered, the words choking in her throat. She clutched her head, a guttural sound of raw frustration tearing from her lips. Then, the compulsion seized her completely, her body going rigid as the unseen force took control. The solution emerged pristine and absolute in its ruinous clarity. Sarah's voice cut through the oppressive air, a raw declaration beneath the bruised and weeping sky. Every affection I offered, she whispered, the scent of ozone and damp earth clinging to her words. You twisted into something foul, so fulfill your vow and go. The final word hangs in the air. A brutal, 5-year silence shattered in an instant. He leaves. She collapses, her sobs hitching in the sudden, heavy quiet, each gasp searching for a rhythm that isn't there. Now, Sarah lives alone. Her world has contracted to the sterile glow of screens and the whisper of her own pen on paper. Communication is a ghost of what it was, reduced to text, to writing, where every word can be measured, controlled, and made safe from the echoes of that final, devastating syllable. But the human need for spoken connection never truly dies. In a digital support group, Sarah listens as a man named Mike shares his story. His voice is a low monotone, each word heavy with a loss that seems to cling to the static-filled air. He speaks of a loss so profound, it feels less like a memory and more like a persistent, cold presence in the room. The facilitator turned to Sarah, her voice unnaturally calm in the charged silence. Sarah, would you like to share how you're feeling today? Sarah's gaze locked with the camera lens, her breath catching as seconds stretched into an eternity. In that suspended moment before she spoke, something ancient and mechanical clicked into place behind her eyes. Her expression settled into the composed stillness of creation. The burden I bear is a stone of sorrow. It grants no respite, not for a breath. It crushes my thoughts into a fine, suffocating dust, and pilfers the solace I crave in the dark hours. The group nodded, some offering sympathetic smiles as they listened to the beautiful, sad poem, completely unaware of the silent scream trapped within its verses. Sarah returned their gaze with a faint, practiced smile that never reached her eyes. The air in the room felt thick and still, carrying the faint, metallic scent of old fear. And so we leave Sarah there, a prisoner within the unyielding walls of her own mind, a place where emotion is always edited, where urgency must wait for the perfect rhyme. Here, the most human need, to simply say what you mean, is a privilege forever out of reach. The air grows thick with the scent of ozone and the static hum of constraint. Narrator. The question isn't what she's thinking. We know her thoughts are clear. What becomes of an unspoken emotion? Does it truly exist at all? For Sarah, and others like her, the truth is never fixed. It is a shifting thing, a constant work in progress. And in that final, fading silence, the only certainty is the question left hanging in the air.
If the legend hooked you, subscribe and open the next case.